Welcome! How to call a transaction in SAP. There are various ways to get things done in an enterprise, but by using a packaged ERP software, the business tasks are standardized when executed via transactions. This video will show you how to call a transaction. Ultimately, you learn how to access a transaction in order to perform a business task and how to work with more than one transaction. At the close of this video, you will be able to call a transaction via the navigation area or the command field. Furthermore, you will be able to deal with multiple sessions. Let's start off by using the navigation area. Transactions can be found either in the Favorites folder or by clicking through the SAP menu. And they are simply called by double-clicking on them. In the Favorites folder, I double-click on the transaction ME53N, Display Purchase Requisition. Now what happened? The navigation area disappeared and the workspace expanded, showing the called application instead. So now I'm within an application. More details about this screen will be explained in due course. At the moment, I just want to leave the transaction, and therefore I click on the green symbol with two leftward arrowheads. That will take me away from the current transaction and back to the previous screen. Now I will just call the same transaction via the menu path. So I click on Logistics, Materials Management, Purchasing, Requisition, and finally double-click on the transaction ME53N. So here I am again in the application. I leave the transaction once more by clicking on the back symbol in the standard toolbar. And because I don't want to close every single folder in the tree, I will just click on the icon SAP menu in the application bar. This way all the folders are closed at once. So a transaction is called by double-clicking on it and left by clicking on the green push button for back. Next you'll see how the command field can be used. The command field is a survivor from older versions of the software. Some people really appreciate it because it allows you to enter the T-code directly into this field to call the transaction. For instance, if I enter ME53N and confirm the input by clicking on the green symbol on the left side of the field, or alternatively pressing return on the keyboard, I will get into the transaction screen. But I go straight back. The command field has a history of the last entered entries, so it can indeed be very handy. Now you know how to use the command field. Let's talk about sessions. What should you do if you want to call more than one transaction? You simply open another SAP window to create a new session. That can be done in different ways. For instance, by clicking on the icon Create New Session in the standard toolbar. At the moment, you may not realize that a new session has been created because all the windows lie on top of each other. But have a look down here at the status bar. There you can see a number in brackets. This number indicates the number of the session. This is, for example, the second session. In standard SAP settings, up to 6 sessions are allowed. And in every SAP window, you can call the same or a different transaction. You can switch between the windows using Alt and Tab. To end a session, you can click on the cross in the dark blue tab in the upper right corner of the window, or use the menu System and choose End Session. Now you know how to create and end a session. This brings you to the end of the video. Let's briefly summarize. Transactions can be called out of the navigation area by double-clicking on them. Alternatively, the T-code can be entered in the command field. To leave a transaction, you simply click on the back symbol in the standard toolbar. More SAP windows or new sessions can be created by using the corresponding symbol on the standard toolbar. To end a session, you click on the cross in the dark blue tab or select End Session from the System menu. That's all for this time. The next video will be demonstration for practice. Thank you for watching and bye! Hello to Demonstration for Practice. This video is about calling transactions in SAP ERP. It will be demonstrated how to call a transaction from the navigation area, how to call a transaction by using the command field, how to call a transaction in a new session, and how to leave a transaction. By the end of the video, you'll be able to call and leave transactions. Let's start off by calling a transaction from the navigation area. Follow the menu path Accounting, Financial Accounting, Accounts Receivable, Document Entry. Double-click on FP70 Invoice. You're in the transaction. Open a new session. Double-click on the favorite transaction ME23N, Display Purchase Order. After you called transactions from the navigation area, let's move on to the command field. Create a new session by clicking on the symbol on the standard toolbar. Click into the command field. Enter the transaction code FP50. Confirm your entry by clicking on the Enter button. You're in the transaction FP50. To call another transaction in another window from here, click again into the command field. Enter \OME53N. Click the Enter button. You're within the transaction ME53N in a new session. After you called transactions via the command field, let's leave all transactions one after another. To leave this transaction, just close the window by clicking on the blue cross. To leave this transaction without editing, click on the Exit button on the standard toolbar. Confirm your exit. Click on the menu System. Select End Session to close this window. To leave this transaction, click on the Back button on the standard toolbar. Click again on the menu System and select End Session. To leave the last transaction FP70 without editing, click on the Exit button. Confirm your exit. Close all folders at once. Now you're out of all 4 transactions. And with that, you're at the end of this demonstration for practice. In conclusion, you've learned how to call a transaction from the navigation area, how to call a transaction by using the command field, how to call a transaction in a new session, and how to leave a transaction without editing. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching and bye! Welcome! What's a document in SAP? The outcome of most but not all transactions in SAP are documents. They play a vital role in any ERP system. This video will explain the basics of these documents. For that reason, you'll learn why documents are needed, how they are generally structured, and how to deal with them. At the conclusion of this video, you would have learned about the document principle, you'll be able to distinguish the different parts of a document, and you'll be familiar with displaying, changing, or creating a document. Let's get going with the document principle. Companies are legally obliged to bookkeeping. All business transactions, no matter how simplified, that have something to do with money must be recorded and verified by a document. This fact is called document principle. Each record needs a document. It may surprise you, but SAP ERP is at the very core an accounting software that meets all legal requirements and thus also follows the document principle. This principle is applied throughout the components. Even if you are not an accountant, your usage of SAP ERP will always follow the document principle, irrespective of the department you work in. Business operations executed via transactions are saved as documents under a unique number. An invoice has an invoice number, an order number, and so on. Based on this number, each document can be called and the operation therefore verified. At this moment, you understand the document principle and that every document has a unique number. Let's move on to the structure of a document. Documents are like electronic forms on your screen. Although they may look quite different, they all have the same general structure. Each document consists of a header, an item overview, and an item detail. A really great example is the purchase requisition. I just call the transaction ME53 again. Here you can see exactly the different parts of the document, which can be expanded by clicking on the symbol next to it. In this document, the header consists only of a header note. The item overview shows a table with one or more items. For each item, the corresponding details can be displayed in various tabs. While space for data on a paper form is limited, an electronic form, in contrast, allows you to store a wealth of information. At the beginning, this can be a bit confusing to you as an end user, but you learn to deal with it. So a document comprises of the header, item overview, and item detail. Let's take a look at how to handle documents. Documents are created, changed, or displayed. For each option, a different transaction is provided. The last number in the T code indicates what the transaction can be used for. 1 stands for create, 2 for change, and 3 for display. Again, let's have a look at the SAP menu. I click my way through logistics, sales and distribution, sales, quotation, and as you can see, a quotation can be created by the transaction VA21, changed by VA22, and displayed by VA23. So if you know one of these 3 T codes, you can easily deduce the other 2 of them, can't you? Now you know the 3 options for handling documents: create, change, and display. With that, you're at the end of the video. In conclusion, the accounting document principle requires a company to record and verify certain business operations. The corresponding documents are stored with a unique number. To classify information, each document contains a header, an item overview, and an item detail. 3 different options are available to handle documents. The last number in the T code points to the appropriate transaction: 1 to create, 2 to change, or 3 to display a document. That's all for this time. The next video is about the changing screen in SAP. Thank you for watching and bye! Welcome! Why is the screen changing? In SAP ERP, some parts of the screen change according to the transaction, while other parts stay the same. This video will show you the changes on the screen. Thus, you'll be taught about the concept of the DINPRO, how the screen changes, and what to bear in mind when accessing a transaction. At the close of this video, you'll be capable of recognizing which parts of the screen will change so that you are better prepared when you call a transaction. Let's begin with the concept of the DINPRO. DINPRO is an abbreviation for Dynamic Program and is the technical term for an SAP screen. Such a screen not only offers a large set of controls for entering and editing data, but is furthermore complemented with coding to process business-like steps before or after the screen is used by the user. Each transaction consists of one or more screens, and the amount of controls on these screens can indeed be intimidating. But in fact, it's really not a big thing. First, you never need all the controls on such a screen. Second, the icons throughout the transactions have the same meaning, and a quick info shows the name of the function. Third, if you place the cursor on a field and then press F1 on the keyboard, the help field will be displayed. By and large, it is best to keep the general structure in mind: header, item overview, item detail, and then to focus on the necessary fields. Currently, you have been acquainted with the general concept of the DINPRO, so let's compare the main screen with the screen of a transaction to see the differences between them. Look at the very top, the menu bar. What's different here? There are some new menus, but two menus are still there, the menus System and Help. No matter what transaction you call, these two are always available. All the other menus vary according to the transaction called. What can be noticed on the standard toolbar? The standard toolbar is on every screen at the same location with the same symbols. Only the simple state of activity or inactivity depends on the transaction. The content of the title bar is quite different. It always shows the name of the transaction and, if available, the document number, which changes according to each transaction. Also, the application bar looks different, as it displays symbols for functions that are specific to each transaction. This is because each transaction is a separate application. At this time, you may have figured out why it is called the application bar. And lastly, the navigation area is not visible within a transaction. It is only evident on the main screen. In short, these are the changes on the screen which occur when you switch to a transaction. But on top of that, the screen of some transactions may also vary themselves. Let's have a closer look at that. Here you can see, for instance, 4 different screens, each displayed after calling the transaction ME53N. In some transactions, like this one, SAP always shows the last used document immediately. Therefore, all of them, of course, have the same title bar. But SAP also remembers the last few of the data. For example, if you had expanded the header, item overview and item detail the last time you used the transaction, this will be the view when you call the same transaction again. So it shouldn't irritate you when you at first sight not able to immediately recognize the screen of a transaction. With this, you're at the end of the video. Let's have a recap of the key points. A screen in SAP displays a lot of controls for the user and is additionally enhanced with coding. The concept behind this is called DINPRO, Dynamic Program. But it's not difficult to manage such a screen because the symbols represent the same function throughout the transactions, and help is provided for each field by using the F1 key. After accessing a transaction, only two menus on the menu bar and the standard toolbar stay the same. The other parts of the screen will adapt to the transaction. Finally, keep in mind that for some transactions, the screen can be arranged in different ways and that the last used arrangement will be displayed when you call the transaction again. That's all for this time, and for this section as well. Thank you for watching and bye!